to stay.
Hello and welcome back to Beyond Boards, a podcast dedicated to the interests and actions of skaters beyond skateboarding. My guest today, Jonathan Mehring, is a renowned photographer and director. He has been shooting iconic skateboarders all over the world for over 15 years and has contributed to many publications and brands in and out of the skateboarding industry. In recent times, he directed the documentary Walls Cannot Keep Us From Flying, focused on two young skateboarding instructors at youth empowerment program SkateQilya in Palestine. The film will be released in the first few months of 2022. So here's my conversation with Jonathan Mehring. I hope you'll enjoy it.
So the rapture never ends.
Thanks again for chatting with me for a little bit. And so I usually start these interviews just by, the guest introducing himself or herself. Can you maybe take me a little bit behind the scenes on just pretty much how you started skateboarding and where you grew up and everything? I know that right now you're living between, I guess you're in Richmond, but you go to New York a lot because it's not too far, right? So.
Exactly. Yeah, we're splitting our time, but we're primarily based in Richmond right now.
Okay.
So it's just both my wife and I have so much work up in New York that it's like we're just bouncing back and forth all the time, which it's not too bad actually. The flight's super mellow, the drive is not too bad either. So, but I actually grew up in Virginia, not far from here. So, between the pandemic and having a baby, it was just like, and also we wanted to buy a house someday, and New York City is pretty prohibitive in that regard.
For sure.
So yeah, we jumped for the opportunity down here, and it's working out.
Where were you living in New York? Were you in Manhattan or?
We were in Brooklyn, in Greenpoint, Brooklyn. Yeah.
Yeah. I used to live there for a little bit.
Oh, yeah?
So not very long, but I spent 2 years in New York between 2011 and 2013, and I actually lived in Greenpoint. I don't remember the crossing streets, but it was right by the Greenpoint Ave subway stop.
Oh man, we were neighbors.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Yeah, I loved living out there. It was so fun. It was really cool. I was so bummed to leave. I didn't have a visa anymore, so I had to come back here. But
I see.
And so now you're in Richmond.
So now we're in Richmond. Yeah.
Is that where you grew up actually, or?
I grew up in the county, in the country, in the sticks, I call it. Outside of Charlottesville, Virginia, which is now known for race riots a few years ago, which is right. Super unfortunate, but it is what it is. But yeah, I grew up about half an hour from there out in the country. And, I guess skateboarding for me was like kind of an escape, because I guess it's weird. I had like periods where I was into the outdoors and stuff, but I was always drawn to cities, and I felt kind of trapped in a way. Mm-hmm. And so skating was like my ticket to this big city and like my way out kind of.
Yeah.
Of course, now I appreciate it a lot more for what it is. But anyway, I always kind of had my eye on New York or also kind of California for a time, but mostly New York, ever since high school. And I started skating I was probably like 10 years old or something. And my friend actually had a skateboard, and he gave me a hand-me-down, but for a while there we were sharing the board.
Oh, yeah.
And what it was he was a kid who lived up the road from where I grew up, and when his parents got divorced, he moved to Charlottesville, and he got into skating. And so then he would come out to visit on weekends and bring his board, and then we would go back and forth in the basement, which was the only concrete available. And so we would just go back and forth like 20 feet, like trying to learn to ollie and stuff. And
yeah.
And then there was like a tennis court like a couple miles down the road, and so my parents would like drive me down to the tennis court because I grew up on a dirt road, so you couldn't really skate on the dirt road. I did try. Because if you waited long enough, the gravel would get all brushed to the side from the cars, and it would become like kind of smooth.
Yeah, somewhat skatable.
Sort of.
On a dry day.
Yeah, as long as it hasn't rained. And then at the tennis court, there was this piece of a railroad track that was probably like 4 feet long. I don't know where it was from, but I found it like in the ditch, and somehow I dragged it up like one end at a time onto the tennis court, and I would like board slide it and stuff. But
yeah, your first flat bar.
yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, but eventually, I started going to Charlottesville to skate, and then met like got in high school, and friends had cars, and then we would go to Richmond to skate, or we go to DC. We would spend a lot of weekends in DC skating Pulaski and stuff like that. So. That was only a couple hours, so that wasn't too bad.
So it's kind of right between New York City and DC, Charlottesville?
It's south of DC. So DC is between New York and Charlottesville.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Charlottesville to DC is like 2 hours, so DC to New York is like 4 hours.
Okay, I thought it was closer because I went to DC once from New York, but I took the train, so it was like maybe an hour or 2 hours.
The train is actually the best way. It's probably like 2 and change or something, but yeah, that's the way to go for sure. Because you hit traffic and but weirdly, because of the way the highways are, from Richmond to New York is actually faster. Like it's like 5 hours as opposed to going from Charlottesville. It would be like 6 to 8 depending on traffic.
Yeah. Wow. Damn.
Yeah. So. It's definitely a better positioned place to be here, But it's also, I don't know, we can sort of consider going back to Charlottesville, but it's just, I don't know, it felt like a regression, you know what I mean? Like going back to my hometown.
Yeah, I understand.
But both my wife and I went to school. We went to college here in Richmond, so.
That's right, yeah, that's where you studied photography, right?
Yep, yeah. So we both have a lot of friends still in the area and everything.
Okay, yeah, so it made sense that you would settle down there.
Yeah, totally.
Mm-hmm. And to go back to skateboarding, so when you first started, so around 10 years old, were you already shooting photos at this point, or did that come a little bit later?
No, I pretty much got into photography because of skating. Yeah, there was like a teacher that I think my parents must have met her or something, and they were like, why don't you take a photography class? And I was like, really? I was like, yeah, I guess, why not? I was actually not doing too well in high school, so like as time went on, I came in as like a B student, and then by like junior year I was like a D student, and so and then I found photography, and then all my grades went back up. But yeah, it was just kind of like finding something I was interested in,
Yeah, and good at, obviously. Yeah.
Right, yeah, I had some natural talent at it, so that was like a big part of it, because I hadn't really had natural talent in other areas at school. So yeah, I got super into it. I would show up like an hour early to print in the darkroom and stay after school like an hour, and my friends and I would also like sign each other out. We like write fake teacher's notes to get out of school early and then go skating.
Damn.
Like that was mostly senior year, I guess, of high school, but probably like one day a week or something, or maybe 2 sometimes, we would like sign each other out, and then we'd just drive into Charlottesville and go skate for the rest of the day. It was awesome.
Yeah, cool. Did you aspire to like have a career in skateboarding, or did you always just keep it as a more of a passion / hobby and focus more on photography? Or
at that time I didn't really think about it too much. Like I knew that photography was a career path. And so I was like, this makes sense. And then, but I didn't really know or think about like, you need to focus on like a subject or like a style or a genre, but I didn't really think about that. I was just around skaters. And so I was like, well, I have my camera. It's a no-brainer, and it's fun. It's fun to like try to freeze action, that's like a enjoyable process. So, and finding like, at first I would just do like the wackiest angles that I could think of, like
you have to experiment before you find like the proper way to do it and stuff. Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Yeah, like my friend ollieing over his brother, or like I don't know. Like I remember once my friend was he had like a lot of pop, he thought he was pretty good, and he was frontside nose sliding the side of a picnic table.
Okay.
And I wanted to like put the lens at the very end of the picnic table, so of course his board shot out, and like I somehow saved it, but he smashed my finger against it like super hard.
Ouch. That must
the
have
photo,
hurt, yeah.
I was like, wow, this photo's kind of sick, but I won't be trying that angle again.
Lesson learned.
But they were all those photos were trash because of my gear. I had like the cheapest lenses, and they're just so fuzzy, But anyway, it was a good time.
Do you still have photos from that whole period, that whole
Yeah,
time?
I mean,
or-
I've been trying to get this like copy stand situation rigged up so I can like digitize all my old stuff, but it's just slow going. But I'm still in the testing phase for like getting my lighting dialed and everything. But like yeah, I have all that stuff somewhere. It's all in boxes, like packed up and binders and everything. So I haven't thrown anything away.
You should share some on your Instagram or something. That would
Yeah,
be fun. Yeah.
once I get it dialed, I'm gonna definitely do that for sure.
Yeah. Like share it with the world.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you studied photography in Richmond then, or I mean in Virginia. I don't know if it was in Richmond, in the city of Richmond, but
Yeah, I went to high school like outside of Charlottesville in the county, and that's where I started it. And then that was basically the only thing that I was good at. Although I really enjoyed physics, and so I was like, should I go into physics or should I go into photography? But I actually really struggled in physics, but I really loved it. So I chose photography because I figured that I should be getting A's in physics if I was going to be a physicist.
if you were really good at it, yeah.
Yeah.
Like to become an engineer or something like that, or
I don't know. Sure. Yeah. But yeah, I just thought it was fun. A lot of it had to do with the teacher who looked like he was in like the Hells Angels or something, but he was like this physicist dude, and he was just such a weird guy. Incidentally, his wife was the photography teacher, but he used to eat a Snickers candy bar for lunch and eat it with a knife and a fork.
I've seen this in a movie sometimes. I don't. Yeah, but it's funny that you say that. Okay, yeah. So kind of an odd character. Yeah.
Yeah. And we used to do these psychotic problems where he would be like, a plane is flying at like all these specs, speed, height, weight, and like whatever. And then it suddenly crashes, it suddenly falls out of the sky, lands on a highway and collides with a water truck going this fast and weighing this much. And then it's like, what direction does the wreckage slide? How far and how much does it heat the water?
Wow.
And it would take you like 2 pages of calculations to figure it out. And I was like, I thought it was super awesome, but it was exceedingly difficult at the same time. But anyway, yeah, photography was definitely kind of the clear choice. And so
I was just wondering, what made you pick up a camera rather than
a video camera?
Yeah, video camera. Yeah, that's what I mean.
Incidentally, I did get a video camera first, but two things happened. One is my friends were really inconsistent, and so I got really tired of being stuck at the bottom of the stairs waiting for someone to land the trick, which, I mean, even in stills, yeah, that happens too, but as time went on, my friends got better and better. But so that was part of it, and then also the image quality was just so much worse than stills, especially, back then. Yeah. And it's just not fun to look at the footage, you know what I mean? Unless it's like a finished video piece. But like logging the footage and all that, like just looking, like it was so much more fun to go in the darkroom and see something that looks super, super crispy magically appear on paper, I mean, that was just so like romantic, So that was, I guess, another thing. And then also we got arrested for skating at the University of Virginia. And part of my punishment was they took my video camera away. My parents did.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And so
no more filming.
And then, I think I actually had to sell it to my parents in order to pay for the court fees and stuff like that.
Oh, wow.
So then it was like their camera.
Okay.
So I was like, well, I guess I'm not doing the videos.
That career path is done.
Pretty harsh. It was pretty harsh, actually.
Yeah.
But anyhow.
So yeah, you stuck to photography.
So I stuck to the stills. And also, like, I knew that photography at the time, like in the 90s, photography was like a really kind of romanticized, epic career path. Like a video camera guy was not really talked about, Except, obviously, skate videos were a big thing, but in like the bigger picture, I guess. But anyhow, yeah, that's basically what happened. And
did you want to study to work as a skate photographer as you were starting your education, or were you kind of thinking of going into other areas of photography?
I was definitely focused on skating, but I don't think I didn't know even back then, even at the end of high school. I was like, I don't know, like I'm just going to be a photographer, whatever. And at the same time, I'm going to try to get my friends into the mag. I was like, wouldn't it be cool if my friends could be in Thrasher or Transworld or Slap or like whatever, you know? So like I started just sending in photos because I knew that you could do that. Because I had subscriptions to all the mags, and in the beginning in the masthead it had like, for submissions send your pictures to this address or whatever. So I just started mailing them in, and and I continued doing this until through college. And then in school, I mean, I guess I kind of thought I would be some kind of a commercial photographer. I didn't really think I would be a skate photographer until I think I got a picture published in Slap magazine.
Okay.
And so that was like maybe toward the end of college, and it was a picture of my friend skating in Charlottesville on this ledge that we used to call it the New York Grinder, because it was like, this one block looked like New York City.
Okay.
And it was like a brick building, and it had this like wooden bench that was like part of a loading dock from like 100 years ago, and you could like skate the wooden part because it was like a step up to get on the loading dock. And he's backtailing it, and that was my first picture in Slap. And so
very first skate photo published.
It was actually my second. My first photo. I was also they had these contest series called Beast of the East. And so I would go to these contests and like sneak onto the floor and like try to shoot photos during practice and stuff. And I got randomly a photo of Chris Cole doing a Benihana out of fakie on a quarter pipe.
Wow.
and I knew Thrasher was doing a story on the contest because they had a photographer there. And anyway, I sent in my picture of Chris Cole, and that ended up being the opening spread for the article.
Wow. That's pretty sick. Wow.
And I was super stoked.
So random.
Yeah, super random. I was like, holy crap. But it still wasn't my friend. I didn't know Chris Cole. I just like got lucky. And then the next photo I sent to Slap. The other thing too was the brick wall that was in the background. It said Gallery Promenade painted on the wall. And if you remember, Slap had a page called Gallery at the back that was like an artsy 2-page horizontal. And so I sent it in, and I think mostly because it said gallery on the picture, they ran it as a gallery, and I was like, oh my God, like this is so awesome. And then also like Joe Brook called me, and he was like, hey, after it came out, it was a surprise, but he was like, hey, keep sending your stuff in, like we really like it. And then I think they may have even sent me like 5 rolls of film or something.
Oh, cool.
And so I was like, holy crap, they're sending me free film? Like, this is insane. And so I did like a bunch of story pitches for them that were like pretty weak, but then they didn't run any of them. But they kept being encouraging,
They saw that you were a promising talent, basically.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
awesome.
The other mags, Grant Britton did send me like this kind of stock piece of paper that's like how to take skate photos that I think he sends to like, I don't know if he sends it to everyone or sent it to everyone, but he's, it was other people have definitely gotten the same thing, and actually it was somewhat helpful at that point.
Like a sort of guide or?
A guide. I knew a lot of the info at that time, but I also didn't know all of it. And then also Ted Newsom was shooting photos back then, and he like drew this diagram of like how certain lenses work, and which I think I even still have somewhere, but that was like super eye-opening. And he told me how to like use flashes like properly, and this is a little bit before even maybe, but in retrospect maybe I should have started submitting to Transworld, but as far as the career path goes. But I liked Slap. It was like I always kind of root for the underdog, and it was like the underdog mag, and also it had like Gaberman was shooting for them. I think O'Mealy was there, and I was just like, dang, like my favorite photographers are shooting at Slap, so I'm gonna go there.
More attracted to what they were doing,
and it was like the artsy mag. It wasn't so polished, And anyway, I like that aspect of it too. So I think I did like a Richmond skate scene article, which they didn't go with, and then I did like a road trip story where my 2 friends and I, after we graduated, we saved up like, I think we had $500 each. And actually I was working valet at a hotel in downtown Richmond, and I think I saved up $2,000, and I bought, or maybe it was $1,500. I don't remember. It doesn't matter. But whatever. It was enough basically to buy the Nikon fisheye, which was like legit, because I had like some off-brand lens before that, and I knew I needed like a sharp fisheye. and I had like a decent like couple other lenses, but anyhow, so I saved up. I spent like 60 or 70% of the money on the fisheye, and then I had $500 left over to drive cross country for a month.
Wow. Holy shit.
And so we each of us had $500, and I did all the math for gas and stuff, which back then was so cheap, but I think we had enough to stay in hotels on 3 nighs. And so we camped.
Pretty crazy.
We camped the rest of the time.
What year was that? Do you remember?
2000. But I want to say gas was like under $2 a gallon.
Okay. Yeah, but still, I mean, $500.
It was definitely like
US,
dirtbag living for sure.
Yeah, I can imagine.
We were all vegetarian, so like we would like go to the grocery store, and this is so gross, but we would buy tortillas, a can of refried beans, and a head of iceberg lettuce, and just make burritos cold.
Wow. Hustling.
Yeah. Just like those cold bean burritos, and then like we'd splurge on like Subway because they had like a vegetarian sandwich.
It's pretty sick.
Yeah, it was fun though.
And you made it. You made it to California then.
We did. And my story idea was that all the pro skaters we were certain to meet, I would photograph them, and then I would pitch that as I did this road trip and I met all these pros. That was like my story idea. Of course, we did not meet any pros.
Too bad.
Although we did meet some amateurs who would become pro, but it wasn't enough for a story in the magazine. But anyway, Adam Alfaro was one of the guys I shot a picture of.
Yeah, I remember him, yeah.
And the other guy was, I didn't even remember this, but James Brockman.
Oh, yeah. Skates for Zero, right?
Yeah, I have a picture of him, or a sequence of him, doing a tray flip lip slide on like a skate park handrail. And he's like a kid, And I just found it the other day, and I was like, whoa. I don't remember this at all, but I do recognize the name. I haven't actually met him since then. He probably doesn't remember either, but like anyway, super random. And then I think DJ Chavez was somebody who was kind of like an amateur for a while, and then I think he became like the Baker team manager for a bit, and then some other people, but it's just funny to look back at that stuff now.
Yeah.
Oh, incidentally too, my car was such a beater that like it would overheat, especially going through like Arizona and like the Rocky Mountains and stuff. Sure. And so we'd have to pull over like every hour and like wait like 20 minutes for the engine to cool down. So I have all these pictures of us parked on the side of the interstate with the hood open.
Okay, 20 more minutes,
It was
guys.
slow going, yeah.
Wow, damn.
And we also, in Arizona, we couldn't drive during the day. We had to only drive at night because it was too hot, yeah.
Yeah, but those are good memories, I'm sure. Like, if it must have been a struggle while you were living it. It's
it was.
Fun to look back
even
on
at that
now.
time, I didn't mind.
Yeah. So, did you manage to start working in skateboarding as a skate photographer right after you graduated from college, or did it take a little bit of time, or?
Maybe. I mean, that trip was like immediately after graduating, and then I want to say like in that fall, I moved to DC. I kind of figured out that like my friends in Richmond weren't cutting it, and like as far as what the magazine wanted, for sure, they didn't want to run random kids skating in random town, like they wanted pros.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, I don't know any pros, but I'm close to DC, and through like 6 degrees of separation, met some guys up there, and anyway, started going up to DC on the weekends and started shooting with like John Ige and Andy Honan, who was like kind of on the come up at the time, and some of the old DC pros like Brian Tucci and Pep Martinez, and a bunch of those guys. So anyhow, then I pitched the DC story to Slap called The Forgotten City, because it was like after the Capitol Nicotine days when those guys were like big time, but they were still out skating all the time. They're still ripping. So I was like, hey, this is actually kind of a cool thing. And I got something clicked around that time, this is in 2000. All of a sudden I started like nailing all my exposures and getting like good lighting and I was like, oh wow, like I got super excited. I remember I got this picture back of a roll of film back of Brian Tucci feeble grinding the welfare bench in DC, and it was like a really good photo, and I was like, oh my god, I was like, wow, I took this. Like, oh, holy
Yeah,
crap,
yeah.
you know? And so that was kind of a big moment. And a few like photos happened around that time where I really nailed it. And I was like, okay, something clicked. And I was like, all right, I got this, you know? And then
I can do this, yeah.
the magazine was super excited, and they ended up running like I think it was like 14 pages story on like the skate scene in DC, and I was just like, holy crap. And then after that they put me on retainer, and I was working at this photo lab, and so like I quit one job and like got a part-time job, and you know, because it wasn't like much money, but it was enough that I could get out and shoot a lot more, basically.
And so Slap was the first mag that you shot for?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay. And were you like with a contract with them, or were you more like freelancing and giving them photos every now and then?
I mean, there was no actual paperwork, but it was they gave me a monthly check.
So yeah, you're basically like an employee. Yeah, okay.
Right, but I was a contractor, but yeah, I had like an agreement where, you know, as long as I was giving them photos, they'd send me a monthly check. And
Right, okay.
and then Philly was going off really around that time, and so they really wanted me to move there. So I left DC after a year, moved to Philly, and unbeknownst to me, this is funny, there was a photographer in Philly who was working for Slap on retainer, and I guess it wasn't working out that well, and so they let him go, and they gave me the exact same amount of money that he was making and had me move to Philly.
Damn.
And so he was like not, and I didn't really know this when I moved, but I found out soon after, you know, and then like, so me and this guy were like butting heads the whole time I was there, because like he was still very motivated and out in the streets all the time, and it was just like the most annoying dynamic, you know, and like he would, I mean, literally.
Because he felt like you had taken his spot.
Well, I mean, I basically did.
Yeah, but not in an evil way, but
not in an evil way, but he didn't see it that way, you know. So
yeah, I understand.
So anyhow, but that was a bit awkward. But you know, after like it took a while too to get like Carrie Getz or Maldonado or Kalis or anyone to shoot with me. But actually, Josh was super cool and invited me to shoot a trick at this double set. And anyway, you know, it worked out. And then like it was the hottest spot because there was like so many photographers and skaters in town. It's not a huge city, and there's limited spots, and so like every time there'd be a new spot, it would just be mobbed by everyone. And I remember we got there one day, we were shooting, he was nollie flipping this double set, and I had set up for a still, and I was very excited. It was Josh Kalis, and never shot with him, you know, and whatever, it's going pretty well. And then like Ryan G shows up with like Carrie and Maldonado and like all these other guys, and they like park across the street and they're like watching, you know. And then Frankie, who was the other photographer, shows up, and I don't even know if he was with anyone, but he like just comes over to me and he's like, I might have to start shooting a sequence of this. And I was just like, get out of here, dude. No, like, this is my shit.
Like, let me do my job.
Yeah. But he didn't attempt to, luckily. But anyway, you know, so that was just like an example of like what it was like, you know. It was a feeding frenzy, basically.
Yeah.
And then Love got shut down like the next year, I want to say, probably early 2003.
Oh, it was that early? I thought it was later than that. Okay.
Well, it got shut down twice. Like it was redesigned first, and then it was actually still skatable, so people continued to skate there. It just wasn't as good. And then finally, a couple years ago, it got completely. It's like now just grass.
Yeah. Okay.
But yeah, back then it was like Love's getting shut down, and you know that's when they added all the pink planters.
Oh yeah.
They basically just put planters in front of the ledges, but the planters themselves were skatable, so it didn't actually do that much. But so after Love got shut down, like Kalis moved back to Chicago, and you know everyone was very negative about it. Like it was just bad vibes for me, and it kind of had been a lot of because of my relationship with this other photographer. And so I was just like, you know what, I'm done with this place. I want to move to New York. I've always wanted to move to New York. I'm out of here. So that was my kind of opportunity I had like a good reason to leave, I guess. And thank God, because it just brings up so many like bad memories. I was just unhappy, I think, at the time, also personally, you know, but
yeah, not the best time of your life.
Yeah, totally. So I just had to leave, and then New York was like this golden opportunity. It felt like, at least, and it was super fun. And
did you ever consider going to California? Since skateboarding is obviously a lot over there.
You know, I kind of like wanted to go to school out there, But I didn't get into any of the schools I applied to, and it was also, even if I did, it was going to be so expensive that it didn't really make that much sense. But and so after that, I mean, once I got to New York, I was like, I don't even really want to move to California. I didn't even really think about it, but I did. I have thought about it since then on numerous times, but here we are.
Yeah. And so you moved to New York. So you moved to Brooklyn, or?
Yeah. So it was funny actually. So one of my friends, his name is Brian Davis, who I drove across country with. Him and we both wanted to move to New York, and he was getting into doing like videos and like filmmaking stuff, and he's actually a director now. But he and I wanted to move up there, and he knew this girl from Virginia who had an extra room, and they lived in like a brownstone in Fort Greene. This is 2003, like maybe like March or April 2003. Anyway, she had this extra room. It was $600 a month, and we were like, all right, well, that's way too. Like, I was spending $200 a month in Philly for rent.
Oh damn! Wow.
And so I was like, oh, I cannot do 600. Like, that's
times,
insane. Yeah. And so he was like, well, we could actually split the room and pay $300 each. And I was like, all right, well, I'll just bring my mattress and just put it on the floor, And anyway, so we moved in with these girls from Long Island which might sound good, but it was actually, they were just awful. But they thought we were a gay couple too, which was hilarious. Like in the closet,
Yeah.
I was like, oh, I sleep on the mattress. They're like, yeah, right.
Yeah. You're not fooling anyone.
Yeah. But that lasted only a few months, and then we found this loft. And then I think we realized we could afford a little bit more. And so then we found this loft. I think it was like $500 a room. And it was like an 8-bedroom place. Or no, it was a 5-bedroom with 8 people. But there was 2 rooms because there were some couples in there, I guess. But like there was 2 rooms available. And so we moved in there. And that was like this lawless, crazy loft with no lease and no account for the gas. But the gas was still on somehow. And so we had like free gas I lived there for 2 years, and I mean, I could just go on for an hour about this place, but I mean, it had like this, it was this giant New York old school looking loft. It had like a 50-foot wall of windows, but they were like single pane, so it was freezing cold. But there was this industrial heater, and we called it the face melter because it was so hot when it was on. It was probably like I don't know, like 3 by 4 feet. Is this giant cube hanging by chains from the ceiling, and it would just blast like the hottest air. You could see the flames inside of it.
Doesn't sound very safe, but
not at all. But like, and the couch, it was in front of this one couch, and like you couldn't even sit on the couch when it was running because it was just like too intense. But I mean, we had, I don't know. I could go on, but it was just this really cool kind of unkempt random place with these kind of.
That was in Fort Greene as well?
No, that was actually in Williamsburg.
Oh, okay.
It was like right between Bed-Stuy and Williamsburg. It's like South Williamsburg. It was like on the edge of the one of the Hasidic Jewish neighborhoods, and then it was also like 2 blocks from the Marcy houses, which is like a notorious project zone. But I think it's Jay-Z from there, I think. But anyway, it was right off the train. It was like not bad.
So you stayed there for 2 years?
Yeah. And I mean, dude, we had like we had a quarter pipe in the living room. I actually have a picture in Slap of Jason Dill doing a frontside ollie on it.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Awesome.
It's like not the greatest photo, but it's just like cool, like to the environment. You know what I mean? The environment is awesome.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
And we had like my one roommate had a collection of ninja stars, and we had this poster of like Burt Reynolds or something, and it was like this giant, larger than life picture, and so we stapled it to the wall, and then we would stand like 30 feet away at the other side of the living room and just throw the ninja stars as hard as we could across the whole house into the wall, like at the poster.
Wow. Yeah.
And like my one roommate, he threw it, and we had one light bulb lighting the entire place, and it was in one of those like Japanese like paper globes.
Yeah.
And so the ninja star goes into the globe and takes out the light bulb and then sticks in the wall, and then it's like shattered off, and we have no light, and I'm just like, damn it, dude. And also the ceilings are like 15 feet tall, and so we had this huge step ladder, like a 12-foot step ladder, and so I like climb up there. I turn off the breaker, and I climb up, and I like get a pair of pliers, and I like getting the broken light bulb out of there and whatever, and I get it all out and I put the new bulb in and it just turns on.
Oh yeah, okay.
Like I didn't actually turn that breaker off for that light. It was like I got so lucky I didn't get zapped from 12 feet off the ground. But anyway, there's a whole bunch of shit like that.
Pretty ghetto, yeah.
Yeah, so ghetto. Anyway.
So first few years in New York were kind of hectic.
Yeah, and then we would just go to Max Fish every night and just drink our faces off until 4 a.m. I mean, and then to go skating every day. You know, I mean, it was fun. I was shooting with Pulio a lot at the time, and just getting all like just really scoping out all the boroughs and like back alleys and or whatever. You know, like.
Yeah, because was there I mean, there's always been a big New York skate scene, but how big was it kind of at that time? Were there a lot of skaters out there? You mentioned Dill was there?
Yeah, Dill was in and out of town. You know, I don't know. He was, I feel like, back and forth so much. But yeah, there was periods where he was around a lot and we would skate. And like Daniel Renaud was there pretty often. And Papalardo and Blahowski I would skate with all the time. And then Pulio I would go on missions with. I mean, I don't know, dude, just anyone who was around. But the skate scene there, I guess it was pretty big, but like compared to now, it was a drop in the ocean, man. Like, I mean, there are so many skaters. But also back then, there was no skate parks.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so I'm not sure what year the LES park came around, but like literally there was like, that's like such a breeding ground for amazing skating. And there wasn't that, you know, so it was definitely really rugged, and you had to be very motivated to become a skater there for sure. I think Tompkins was like the best flat ground in the city, you know, and that was kind of the spot for sure.
It was much smaller, yeah.
Yeah. So
I'm interested in knowing when you started traveling in the middle of all this, because you've obviously traveled quite a bit throughout your whole career. Did you start traveling right after graduating as you were starting to shoot, or did that come a bit later? Or?
Well, I want to say it started with assignments from Slap magazine. So like my first trip, I think there was 2 trips that were right kind of back to back, and I want to say they were while I was in Philly. And I think the first one was to Hong Kong, of all places, for this like 411 around the world video they were doing. It was with Ricky Ayola, Damian Smith, Vern Laird was filming, Elias Bingham, and Kenny Reed and Cairo Foster.
Pretty sick crew.
Yeah, it was an awesome crew, and we went out there, and it was super difficult because I was like overly excited, so I like overshot all this like random like horrible street photos of dumb stuff, you know, like this touristy kinds of like rolls and rolls and rolls of film, you know, and
yeah, you wanted to capture it all.
I think I had been to Mexico once with my parents as a teenager, and basically that's really the only traveling I had done besides going cross country, you know, international. So anyway, I was very excited to be there, but also it was super challenging. I was very nervous to be shooting with like Kenny and Cairo, especially because I didn't know them, and they were like these superstar pros, you know, and and also to top it off, I had these like pretty ghetto flash transmitter receiver units. They were like the cheapest ones that I could get, because you know I still was making like pennies from Slap. You know, it was tough. You know, I had like assisting random side jobs and like whatever just to like get by. But anyway, because of the technology in Hong Kong was so much more advanced, like the radio technology, and also like especially in the downtown area, that basically I'd turn on my flashes and the radio receivers would just start firing. And so I would turn on my flash and they would just strobe, pop, 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 until the battery died.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And I was just like, oh my God. So I ended up shooting a lot of natural light. I ended up like blowing a bunch of photos because my flashes wouldn't fire with the camera because they were like recharging because they had been firing on their own.
Oh,
anyway, it was super stressful and like, whatever. I got enough pictures to do an article, like luckily. And then also I shot natural light, thankfully, but this picture of Kenny Reed kickflipping into this roof.
Oh, yeah. I saw that recently on the little Transworld thing you did with them, with your favorite photos, I think.
Right. So that, you know, we woke up at like 6 a.m. because it was like a, you know, busy area and everything. And then we shot that, and that ended up being his Traveler iPath ad. And so that kind of like, I think part of the reason that photo came out so well, like Kenny and I like started on like a pretty great friendship and also a working relationship moving forward.
Was that on top of a subway station or something like that?
Yeah, it's like I think it's a shopping area. It's called like Mongkok or something, and it's like
it's a very busy
solid
area.
people.
Yeah.
It's insane. Even at 6 a.m, it was busy.
Yeah. No, I'm sure. Yeah.
Like I think in the photo you'll see at the bottom is like a lady walking by because it was just like, okay, we have a break, like go, But I mean, luckily his board didn't like come off and hit her in the head or something.
Oh yeah. Was there someone on the ground trying to catch the board? Or
No, it was just me and Kenny because no one else wanted to wake up that early. And so I think Kenny and I shot almost all of his photos for that entire article we shot that morning.
Oh, damn.
Like, I think we shot, maybe there was a couple others, but we shot probably like 4 tricks before like 10 o'clock in the morning.
Wow. Super productive morning right there.
Yeah.
Good things happen to people who wake up early, yeah.
Yeah, it's always a good idea to catch that sunrise, for sure.
For sure, yeah. No, that picture is sick. Yeah, I forgot about it actually until I saw it again on that Transworld piece.
Yeah.
And so you're talking about Hong Kong and that first major travel for you?
Yeah, that was the first. And then after that, I went on this like 5-week-long Zoo York tour to Europe. And that was also super great. And anyway, then, we went to, I don't know, all over Western Europe. And then, I started going, then Barcelona became like this big hotspot. And so I started going to Barcelona like every year. It was like Barcelona in the summer or like spring and fall. Maybe I don't know, but basically like Barcelona and then Miami in the winter. And it was like Barcelona, Miami, Barcelona, and then I was in like Philly or New York, depending.
What would bring you to Miami?
Just because Philly in the winter is like you can't really do anything there. So
yeah, the winter is quite harsh.
Yeah, I made friends with Forrest Kirby and Ed Salego, and I would go down and stay with them. I think I did that like 3 winters in a row and stayed for like a month or something each time. And it was awesome. And then Danny Renaud too was from there. So
he's also from Florida. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, we had like a little crew going down there, so that was a good time. Also, really, I have really fun memories of that. Actually, like go swimming in the morning and then go like eat at this wonderful sandwich place on South Beach, and then we just go skate all day and party all night basically and repeat.
Sounds like a pretty cool life.
Yeah, it was good. But yeah, so I got, I guess around like 2003. So that lasted for like 3 or 4 years, and then I kind of got tired of going. Like, I liked going to Barcelona. I always will. But I also had been a couple other places, and I was like, man, like, it'd be so cool to see some more of the world than just going back to the same places again and again. So I had pitched a few ideas at Slap, and they were just not that into them. Like, you don't really, why do you need to travel? Like the brands will take you around if they want to. Anyway, never one to sit idle, I guess. I felt like I needed to move on, and so then there was an opportunity at Skateboarder Magazine that came up, and this is right when the Skateboard Mag started. So like there was a big shuffle of photographers staff, in the Skateboard Mag, and everyone moved around a little bit, and it was kind of like the end of that period. But I had an opportunity to go to Skateboarder, and so I took it, and like they increased my pay a lot, and they also basically were like, you can go anywhere you want to as long as you have like a decent crew. And so I was like, oh, all right. So then I think I somehow then I like realized it was hard to I had to fund these things basically, and then that was like really the hard part. And then no company wanted to spend money for like a random crew of friends. They wanted So I had friends that were skating for different companies, and I knew they would all travel well together. And so I was like, well, this would be cool if I put this group together. I saw it at the magazine as a very kind of democratic entity. And so I figured that I didn't see a problem with crossing companies, although maybe they're on the other side, maybe there was some in retrospect. But anyhow, it was never that much of a problem to get a company to shell out a few grand for a guy to go on a 2-week trip. But it was really tough to get the filmer paid for, because they're like, wait, our guys gonna be filming other teams, like this is...
like, are you gonna split enough as much time on one rider for one brand as for the other guys? Or but toward the end the magazine started funding the filmers toward the end, and so then all of a sudden it was like the floodgates open, and it was like, oh well, this is a skateboarder trip, and we're gonna take whoever we want, and we're gonna go wherever we want, and so that that's how that kind of snowballed, I guess. But in the beginning, it was super tough. But the first trip, I think, was the Argentina one where Jerry Backside Smith grinded that rainbow rail that was the cover. Jerry Husu? Or?
Yeah.
What year was that?
That was probably 2004.
Okay.
And then let's see, I don't know, whatever. I started like pitching all these ideas, and I'd say like 1 out of 3 would happen. And then Kenny was obviously a big inspiration for that stuff too, because he was always floating around the globe, like doing whatever. And
Yeah.
and so I think the next year he was like, hey, you want to go to Russia? There's this Planet Earth trip out there, and they actually have a photographer, but a bunch of us are going to stay at the end after the trip and just travel around.
Yeah,
And so
okay.
I invited like Jack Saback and Bobby Pulio, and I was like, all right, guys, let's go out there, and we're going to piggyback on this trip and just keep it going.
Were they all writing for iPath at that time, or?
It was like a iPath, Planet Earthy kind of vibe.
Right.
That one,
Okay.
yeah. So it was a couple of sponsors, I guess. But yeah, we came out there, and first off, I had been traveling, but the silliest things that you like forget to do sometimes. Like I didn't have a contact. My only contact was like the Planet Earth team manager in the States. I didn't have any information. I just had an address for like where to go in Moscow. And so I did all the legwork, getting a visa and all this stuff, but I didn't really know where I was going. And so like I got there and I said, okay, I gave the address to a taxi, and it was number 2 Park Pobedy. And he was like, what? And I was like, yeah, that's where I'm going. And he's like, no, there is no 2 Park Pobedy. He's like, Park Pobedy is huge. And he's like, where are you coming from? I was in New York. He's like, it's like Central Park, it's like bigger than that.
Oh, okay.
And I'm like, oh God. I was like, okay, well, where do skateboarders go? And he was like, I don't know, like maybe Victory Plaza or something. And I was like, oh, just take me there. And so I like go to this Victory Plaza, and it's like obviously a skate spot, and so I just hop out of the taxi and I just sit there with all my bags by the subway. And I was like, well, they got to come home at some point. And so I just sat there for like 4 hours, dude, until finally, actually some like random girl let me use her cell phone, and I had the number. I think I called the States, and then I got the number of the apartment, and then I like called the apartment, and then someone said, oh, just come across the street. But the building across the street was this giant Russian like block, and it had like probably 2,000 apartments in it. And I was just like, what? I was like, you got to come get me, man. And anyway, at that point, though, someone came out of the subway. I think like some of the other guys came out of the subway, and I was like, hey!
Finally.
And so they showed me to the apartment, and there was absolutely no way I would have found it, But
damn, pretty complicated, yeah.
Yeah, I definitely learned that. To get all my information
prepare your
beforehand.
trips.
Yeah. But that too, there was 11 people staying, and Kenny had rented like a 2-bedroom apartment. We had 11 people in there. And so like the landlady came in the night before to like just check on things, and like saw all of us and freaked out, and she like kicked everyone out on the street. And all the guys from the Earth Tour just went to the airport a little early, but the rest of us who were staying we were just sitting on the curb at like midnight, like what the hell are we going to do? And luckily there was this local photographer guy who like let us stay in his apartment overnight, but he was moving, I guess, and so like he didn't actually have any furniture or anything in the apartment.
Oh, okay.
Because he had moved everything out, and so we just like had to sleep on the hardwood floor.
Oh gosh.
But
Super
the next,
comfy?
the next day we got on a train and went to like Latvia, and then went to Lithuania, and then we like went down to Bulgaria, and the whole tour, road trip, whatever it was. It was like I want to say 2 months. 2 months on the road.
2 months.
Yeah.
Wow. Damn, that's a long time.
But it was fun. It was a good time.
Yeah, I can imagine. So it was Russia and all of Eastern Europe, basically.
Kind of, yeah.
Not all of it, but a
Not
big
all, but
portion
a big
of it.
part.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Sick. So you traveled quite a bit. I guess it would probably take forever to go through all the countries you've visited, but
yeah.
But yeah, is there maybe one or two trips that really stuck out to you while you were doing them? I know that there's one that I think you were on that trip to the La Paz in Bolivia, the skate park construction one for Levi's.
Yeah.
That's something that really stuck out to me. But and obviously the one you did in India as well with Patrick and all the visual traveling guys.
Yeah.
But yeah, are there any trips that really stick out to you?
I mean, those were two big ones. I think to me the biggest ones are Well, during that Russia trip, Kenny told me about the Trans-Siberian Railway, and I guess him and Scott Bourne had done that like the year before or something, but they didn't get off the train. But he saw all these cities along the way, and he was like, man, we should like go and stop in these towns in Siberia, you know? And so it took like 2 years of pitching, but I finally got that like funded and everything, and then we did that. So that trip was like amazing. It's like an awesome crew, and it was Kenny, Jack, Keegan Sauter, and Van Westel.
Wow. Damn, that's a really cool crew right there.
That was super fun. And that was also another like 2-monther. But we went like across Russia, through Mongolia, and then spent like a couple weeks in China at the end.
So that's not the same, because I know Patrick Wallner also did a Trans-Siberian...
Yeah, I think he might have done that a few years later. Like, I'm not sure. Our trip was in 2007. I don't know when his was. It might have been like 2011 or something like that.
Yeah, you might be right, yeah.
But that trip was amazing. And then the other one that really stands out to me was the Vietnam trip, which was my first trip with Patrick. And I don't remember how I met him off the top, although I'm sure it'll come to me. But basically, we were talking about doing a trip together because I think he was just doing all this other crazy travel stuff too. And I was like, man, we should definitely link up. And I had this picture I found on like Tumblr or some shit at the time that was like just 2 dirty motorbikes on a wooden boat like crossing a river. Mm-hmm. And I was like, man, that looks so cool. And so I sent it to Patrick, and I was like, I want to do a trip like this. And he's like, oh, well, why don't we just go to Vietnam? Because I guess it reminded him, because he had been to Vietnam before. And I think he had actually been there and ridden motorbikes around. So that like clicked for him. And anyway, so we kind of like designed that trip and went there. I'd never ridden anything other than a bicycle before in my life. But like we got there, we bought motorbikes, learned how to ride them, and then drove 2,000 miles.
Yeah. That's nuts.
It was definitely kind of crazy. And I mean, I fell down, I fell off the bike once and got a little scraped up. And then Jerry fell twice.
Yeah, that's right. I remember that.
Yeah, he almost left, I think, because he smashed his ribs into the back of another guy's bike.
Oh shit! Yeah. Oh, that must have been scary. Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, kind of unscathed. I heard about a crew from Europe that like tried to do this trip like a year or two after us, and I guess like somebody fell and like broke their arm in a crash, and then they all just bailed.
Oh yeah, okay.
That's what I heard. I'm not sure how accurate that is. I don't even know who it was, but it was. We got lucky for sure that no one was seriously injured, because it's exceedingly dangerous to ride a bike over there.
Well, yeah, exactly. Yeah, I saw the Patrick Wallner video.
Yeah.
I don't remember the title of it, but the name of
the
video.
Killing Season.
That's right. Yeah.
And the reason for that is because we didn't realize it, but we were there during the Tet New Year celebration, where it's like there's way more drunk drivers and stuff during this period, and it's like a 2-week long period, you know. So
best time to go travel across country.
Well, it actually was good because there's very little traffic. Because about halfway through our trip, that ended, and all of a sudden the traffic was full on, and we were just like, oh my God, like there's no way we could have done this with a full traffic, you know?
Yeah.
So that was like really kind of eye-opening. But, you know, and the skating was kind of whatever, to be honest, but the adventure was at its peak.
Oh, for sure, yeah. That's a big part of it. So,
right, yeah, exactly.
I wanted to ask you about the book you made with National Geographic. Skate the World. Can you tell me a little bit about how the project come about, and did they approach you, or was it the other way around, and how did you select the photos and stuff like that? Can you tell me about that project?
Sure. It's funny, I heard one of their photographers speak at some event one time, and somebody was like, how do you get in with Nat Geo? And he was like, you know what? You don't find them, they find you. And I actually found that to be true as well, because I never really thought that was a avenue. Because skating, National Geographic, what?
Yeah,
I don't know. But I had a chance kind of run-in with one of their editors at a Christmas party, and this is in 2008, and I'd just come back from this trip to Kazakhstan, and I was telling her about it. I didn't even know what she did as a job, but she was like, hey, you know what? You know, I work at Nat Geo Books, and we're always looking for like subjects that will appeal to a youth audience. And, you know, I was like, or she said, do you think you have enough material for a book? And I was like, well, yeah, I guess. I don't know. I've been doing this for like 8 years now and whatever. Yeah. And so she said, why don't you come in for a meeting? And so, I mean, I'd never even had a meeting anywhere. Like, my only meetings had been like over the phone with like Slap magazine, you know what I mean? So like, I went into the dark room and I printed like 50 11x14s of my favorite skate photos. And I just put them in a Kodak paper box and went down to Nat Geo and had a meeting with like 10 people in this boardroom. And I just had my prints and just passed them around the room, and they were all like, they were probably like, who is this guy? What are we doing here? Like, yeah. But the work was there. Like, they liked the work, you know, so they were like, wow, okay, well, this is great work, but what's your angle? And I was like, well, I don't know, like just skating around the world or something. And they were like, all right, well, let's talk further, whatever. So then I get an email from Susan Hitchcock is the editor, and she got back to me, and she's like, you know what, I really believe in this book, but we really have to find how this fits into the Nat Geo mission of basically like trying to make the world a better place. So figure that out.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, okay, I don't know. So then basically from that point, I started pushing the travel even. I mean, I guess Kazakhstan was pushing it, but like I had this book in mind, and she was like, it's not going to happen like tomorrow, but like just keep it in mind. Like, I believe in this project and whatever. So I always just had it in the back of my head going forward that I was like, okay, maybe someday this will be a book. So I think I shot a little differently, and it was subtle, but there was some kind of shift that happened there. But I definitely started pushing the travel more and more, like just different spots, and try to really kind of cover the globe a little bit more. Like, oh, I haven't been to this continent, you know, or whatever. So whatever time goes by, I'm doing travels, and then finally, it kind of hit me. I was like, oh, well, skating is this global culture, and it brings people together across these, you know, cultural barriers or whatever. And so then I had another meeting and kind of pitched that idea, and they were like, all right, great, we can do this, but we don't want to pay for it because we have never done a skateboarding book, and we don't know how it's going to sell. And they're like, you got to find a sponsor. And so I was like, oh my God, like, all right, whatever. So maybe this book won't happen. And I was like thinking about other publishers, and I was like, man, maybe I should try to get like a super corporate brand behind it, or like, obviously I need that, you know. I asked, like, I pitched some shoe companies and just never heard anything back. And
yeah, it's difficult because you're not promoting a brand, or it's like, what's the point for them? Yeah.
Right. And then like there was like some, you know, I figured like whatever brand would probably want to be really heavily involved and like control who's on the cover and like all this stuff, you know, the content. And
yeah.
Anyway, so incidentally, speaking of India and Bolivia, I did the India trip, and when we were in Bangalore, I got a call or email or something from one of the ad guys at Skateboarder, and he was like, hey, Levi's just reached out, and they're actually building a skate park in Bangalore right now. Do you want to stay an extra week or something or two and document the build? And so I was like, yeah, sure. And they actually had a photographer coming out, but he wasn't showing up for a while. And so I shot like the first half of the project, and then I left, and before, like the day before he came in or something. But anyway, we hit it off really well. And then they did this project a couple years later or a year later, I guess, in La Paz. And they invited me to come and like shoot the campaign and like, you know, document the whole thing. And while we were there, we were like having drinks one night, and the director of marketing guy was like, man, he's like, I just don't know how to spend the rest of my budget this year. Like, they gave me so much money, and this stuff actually doesn't cost that much. And I was like, oh, well, why don't you just fund my book?
Yeah.
And he was like, really? And he's like, what's it all about? Anyway, so literally I just connected him to Nat Geo over email, and within 6 months we were going to press.
Awesome.
So that it was just like we were just waiting for the right time and place, and it just happened.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah. So I'm a big believer in like the law of attraction or whatever because of that. Because this whole time, over seven years, I was just like, you know what, like I'm headed toward a book someday, you know. But
yeah.
And so anyway, that, you know, I sourced some photography from other people to like kind of fill in the gaps, because it's not my story, you know. It's like, it's skating as a global culture is the story. So, but you know, it's mostly my photos, and I wrote all the essays and everything in it, which was actually the most difficult part, 'cause writing is like pulling teeth for me. But I do get into it once I get past the initial threshold of starting.
Yeah. No, I understand. Yeah, it takes a bit of an effort to get the thing rolling, and then once you're in it, it's all good. But yeah,
exactly. But anyway, that's how the book happened, and that's also kind of the Levi's Bolivia kind of project.
Yeah.
And then Skateboarder folded the following year, and then the book came out like right after that, and so it was all kind of seamless. And then I kind of started just freelancing and doing more commercial work. And
That's right, and that's what you've been doing in more recent times for numerous brands. I saw that you recently did a shoot for that's not his name, but it's Sea Blues on Instagram. Gilbert Crockett.
Oh, that was for Vans. Yeah, I mean, I'm still like most of my work is still in skating, like just on the commercial side of it. You know what I mean? But yeah, Gilbert. I mean, he's in town here too. It's just easy. Like whenever I go skating, it's usually with those guys. So. Bus crew guys. Yeah, so that, and so I did some running stuff, and I don't know, just various different sports. You know what I mean? It's kind of fun to change it up, and I mean, skating to me is still the sickest thing ever, but it's nice to kind of try my hand at some other areas.
Sure.
There's like a big mountain biking scene here, so I've been shooting a little bit of mountain biking stuff, which is like such a different, like I just ride my bike around. I'm not like an action biker, but these dudes are crazy, man. It's pretty insane. But yeah, skating is definitely still where my heart is as well, so. Of
course, that's where you come from, so.
Yeah, totally.
All right, so I want to ask you, if you had to pick one or two photos from, I mean, it's obviously a very difficult question, but like if you had to select one or two photos in your entire career, skate photos that you're the most proud of or that you're the most stoked on, what would they be? And I know you kind of did that a bit with the Trans World, a little piece.
Yeah.
But if you can think of different pictures, obviously you mentioned the one with Kenny Reed in Hong Kong.
Yeah, I mean, that's up there. I don't know. This probably changes from week to week or month to month, But at the moment, I would say like that one maybe. The book cover shot.
Oh yeah, with
of the guy of Suchu and Sivo.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That one. This point and shoot photo I have of Tony Trujillo doing this insane method air off a launch ramp in Brooklyn, and maybe the Jerry Sue backsmith photo that I mentioned earlier.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. It's that's a tough one, but there's a lot. There's a lot of them that go by over the years and everything. But I'd say those are in the front of my mind at the moment. So we'll go with those.
Yeah. There was one that I saw again recently with Anthony Van Engelen doing a feeble over this like round, not curb, but ledge.
Yeah.
And it looks pretty crazy because his arms are like along his body or something. Yeah. And he looks like he's like ski jumping, or I don't know how you say it. But I was just like, wow, that's such a strange posture. And it kind of, I don't know, it kind of shows well how powerful he is on a skateboard and how much in control he is, basically.
Totally.
Yeah, I just enjoyed that picture very much.
Yeah, I like that photo a lot too. I think photographically speaking, it's like not that remarkable, but his style in that picture is super crazy. And it's funny you mention it too, because that was if you ever go on the Slap message board, they have these like photo meme, like almost contests that come up where people start photoshopping stuff. I mean, I haven't seen one in a while, but that was one where people like took that and they cut him out and they like put him in bed, like under blankets, or it may have been a ski jumping one, I'm not sure, but they basically had him doing all these various activities, you know what I mean?
I had to check that out, yeah. I'll definitely look it up.
But that was super funny, I thought.
Do you remember where that was?
Yeah, that was in Cyprus, actually. The island of Cyprus. That was a Vans trip.
Okay. So you've shot photos with, as we've been talking about this for a little bit, you've shot with many skaters from different areas, different periods of time. Who are some of the skaters that you've enjoyed shooting the best? I guess you mentioned Kenny Reed.
Yeah.
That's probably someone that you've shot a lot of pictures with. But who else did you really enjoy working with?
I mean, I think if you can tell probably by the other guys I traveled with repeatedly.
Yeah.
Or even traveled with at all. But yeah, who knows? I mean, that's really hard. That also probably changes from time to time. But I think, Jerry Sue is a big one. Jake Johnson was super exciting to shoot with. Kenny Anderson has always been like a favorite. I don't know. There's so many. I can't really.
It's hard to. Yeah. You choose one, you leave one out.
Yeah. I mean, I just love shooting. I love shooting action and skating, and if we're vibing as people, then I'm pretty happy. So I'd say it's very few the people who I have disliked shooting with.
Yeah.
And most of them they're notorious for being hard to work with or something like that, so. But yeah, I've always been pretty easy to get along with, and vice versa.
Sure.
I think so. But yeah, it's I don't know, it's been fun. But yeah, some of those guys are definitely super inspiring to see. Speaking of Jerry again.
Yep.
I did this trip to Miami with Enjoy. This is definitely the film days still, so it must have been like 2000 and maybe 5 or 6. Anyhow, in Bag of Suck, he does like a switch 180 5.0 revert on the blue hubba in Miami.
Yeah, I do remember that one. Yeah, it's a famous hubba, right?
Like, yeah, I think it's called the ADT hubba or something. So anyway, we're there. Matt Eversole is filming, and we're sitting next to each other at the bottom of the stairs. And I have this growing. And back then, like when you'd shoot a sequence, if they didn't make any or even come close on the roll of film, to save the camera battery, instead of rewinding the film, you would just open the back and tear it out. And so it was just like this pile of film growing.
Oh yeah.
on the steps by you, and it was typical to get like a film came in like a brick of 20 rolls, and so I would get a couple of bricks for sequences for a trip.
Okay.
And the magazine was supplying all the film back then, so I would be like, oh yeah, I need like 100 rolls of whatever, and try X400 or something. And anyhow, they would just send this out. And so for the day, normally I would just take a brick, sometimes two, but like normally I would just take one brick of film. And so I'd done that on this day, and it's at night, like it was the end of the day, been out already. So I'm shooting the sequence, and we're burning through film, and he's like bailing a lot. And it was about 3 tries per roll, because he wanted to save a little at the end if they made it, so he'd have some frames. Anyway, we get down, I think I have about 3 rolls of film left, and that's usually about the time I would mention it to a skater. But I hadn't actually at that time shot with Jerry. I think that may have been the first time I shot with Jerry. I can't remember. I also stayed with him in San Jose for a while, but anyhow, whenever it was, I say to Matt, I was like, hey dude, do you think that I should tell him? Because he was getting really mad, and like he was very like
frustrated. Yeah,
he was super frustrated. Yeah, and I was like, dude, I have 3 rolls left. Do you think I should tell him?
Or is it gonna piss him off? Or
or is it gonna make him more stressed? And Matt was like, dude, I don't know, like, because Matt had worked with Jerry a lot more at that point. And,
yeah, he knew him.
Yeah, and I was like, do you think that? He was like, you know what? I think he's trying as hard as he can, so maybe just don't say anything.
Okay.
And so I was like, all right, I'm not going to say anything. Anyway, so he tries it a handful more times, and I put in the last roll. He gives it 2 more goes, and I'm just like, I almost said something again at the last roll, but I didn't, and then he tries it 2 more times, and then he goes, hey, John, how many more rolls you got left?
Oh, damn.
And I was like, oh my God. I was like, dude, last roll, last try. And he's like, are you fucking serious?
Wow. Now that his back is against the wall, and
and I was like, we decided not to say anything because you were already trying so hard. And he's like, fuck, and then he like goes up and he fucking comes back and makes it, dude.
Oh wow, really? That's sick.
Yeah, it was incredible.
He needed that like last try kind of. this is do it or die or something.
Exactly.
Wow.
I think that's the only time that ever happened, but that was pretty. It was magical,
Yeah. Thank God you still had that film, because if it was done, like he would have been probably even more pissed.
Oh, I would have been so bummed if he then made it like 5 tries later or something.
Exactly.
Oh, God, yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, I need to find the sequence. Was that an ad, or was that in a mag or something?
It's in a skateboarder issue.
Okay.
I don't know when or where. Ask the skate media nerd on Instagram. I don't know.
I'll figure it out.
It's between like 04 and 06, I want to say, somewhere around there.
Mm-hmm. All right. Before we go into questions from your friends, I have a question about obviously the documentary that you're about to release. If I'm not mistaken, because I couldn't find it, so I assume it's not yet out there.
Yeah, it's not out. We're still doing the festival circuit, so we got into Doc NYC and premiered there, and that was super exciting. And it's crazy to see it on a massive movie screen, and especially to hear it on the stereo system of the theater was absolutely mind blowing.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah,
because we had like a composer do a score for it, and it was
amazing.
Yeah, it was. I had no idea because I'd only listened to it on my laptop before that, so it was definitely eye-opening. And then we now got into Slam Dance Film Festival in January, so we're going to show there too, and waiting to hear back from like 6 or 7 other ones. So it's probably going to be a little while until it's like out, but
Okay.
it's definitely like people can, during the film festivals, you can like go onto their streaming service and like rent it and watch it.
Oh, okay.
So
Cool.
like Slam Dance is January 20th to 23rd. And I don't know if it's going to be available the whole time. I think it is. But the actual premiere is on the 22nd in the afternoon. But yeah, I think that I'm pretty sure that all the films will be streaming for the duration of the festival. So.
And just for the listeners who might be wondering what I'm talking about, it's a documentary
what is it?
that it's because I should have said it, but it's called Walls Cannot Keep Us From Flying. It's basically about 2 skaters from Palestine, 2 young skaters, Omar and Yasmin. If I'm not mistaken, they're both instructors at SkateQilya. Is that how you say it? Which is a local skate camp. And I think Kenny Reed actually works out there. I don't know if he does anymore, but...
Back to Kenny again. He is a co-founder of it. So he actually invited me out there.
That was his initiative. Okay.
Yeah, and then he thought I would come shoot stills, but I was like, why don't we do a documentary? Because I'm trying to do more motion stuff. And
that's right. Yeah, I wanted to ask you because we talked about photography a lot, but are you going more and more into directing and doing documentaries and stuff like that?
Yeah, I mean, I have so many ideas for that kind of thing. Like, I'd say more than stills right now, but they're really hard to, like, they just take so much more time, you know what I mean, to, like, all the moving pieces. And, I mean, that film was basically my film school. Like, I tried to do it as legit as possible and, like, really do everything you can do to, like, professionalize a documentary and, like, really, like, make it good. And it took a long time, man. And also I had a kid in the middle of it, and then the pandemic, you know, that was a kind of a setback. But, like, we filmed in 2019 and it just came out, so. It
was shot 2 years ago, okay.
It took 2 years to make it, basically. But there was definitely probably a 6-month hiatus in there somewhere.
Is it a long, it's not that it's too important, but what's the length of the documentary?
It's like 13 minutes long.
Oh, okay, so it's quite short, okay.
Yeah, and it's basically about just these kids who are using skating to find freedom, at least mentally, because they don't have it in their physical lives. That's kind of like the big picture message of it, I guess. But yeah, it was crazy, man, going out there and everything. And
was it your first time going to Palestine?
Yeah, it was. Actually, I tried to go to the Middle East on a few occasions, but I never actually got a trip going there. I think, Morocco was like the closest, or like Baku, Azerbaijan was sort of Middle East-ish, but it's actually not the Middle East. So yeah, this was the first time going there, and I missed an opportunity to go to Afghanistan that I'm still so freaking bummed about, but...
And right now it's not a good time anymore.
You're not going there, yeah. So, but yeah, it was exciting to go out there, and we just spent a week and just hung out and like filmed a bunch of interviews and learned so much about filmmaking. It was awesome.
Yeah, because as I said, it seems to be focused on those two young skaters from there.
Yeah.
Did you go there with the intention of making it about them, sort of, as the main narrators, or?
I knew that they would probably be the main characters, but I also thought we were going to include a bunch of other characters too. We didn't really know what the story was, but we knew like these guys are going to be probably the most interesting. Okay. And so we interviewed like 20 different people, and we had like 30 hours of footage or something like that. And then we reduced it down because also in a short, you just don't have time to introduce that many characters and make them meaningful, you know? So like this is the kind of thing that I was learning about. It's like, how do you make people care about these characters, and how do you make the audience feel something?
Build empathy and
and that's kind of the big challenge, I think, like with directing stuff. And I filmed too, because I'm like kind of a tech nerd, and so I was like, oh man, I want to shoot, but like, you know, the whole time my DOP was like, you don't have to shoot, man, you know, and I was like, I want to, and then like at the end, like I think like 99% of my footage is not in the film.
Yeah, at least you experimented with it, and
yeah, because it's all a learning process, you know. But now if I film the next one, I'll probably have a lot more percent footage in there. You know what I mean? So
yeah, you're gonna get better and better at it. So
yeah, so that was definitely part of it too. It was fun, man. It was really cool.
Yeah. So that's coming out pretty soon. So premiering in festivals right now, and
festivals, like hopefully by the summer it'll be like released or something.
Okay.
But I'll definitely like put a big Instagram post out about it when it does.
Yeah. No, I look forward to watching it. It sounds really interesting.
Yeah, man. Cool. Thanks.
All right. Well, how about we wrap this up with the questions from your buddies?
Yeah.
So I have questions from 3 different people. I think we've mentioned most of them throughout our conversation. So, okay, let's start with this one.
Hey, John, tell us the story about that time we lost the keys and saw a rainbow.
Do you recognize, I guess
That was Kenny. That was Kenny.
Yeah.
Oh, man, I forgot about that. So I've been to Morocco twice, and the first time was we went on a trip to Barcelona, and then we were like, let's get out of Barcelona, let's go to Morocco. And Kenny was like, yeah, there's this city. I heard some kid told me it's like a city of marble in like the southern part of Morocco. And we're like, it's called Agadir. And so we're like, all right, let's fucking go, you know? And so like a flight from Barcelona to Casablanca was like not expensive. And so Jerry was there, Jerry, Kenny, Jack, and Rich Adler, I want to say, and Mike Fox was filming. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we just hopped over there and rented a car. And it was like a kind of a debacle from the very first start because we'd never been there. We didn't know where we were going. The guy at the airport gives us this map, and it was like either hand-drawn or like Xeroxed so many times that like it was almost like illegible. And all the streets are named after the kings. And so there's a bunch of them named Muhammad. And so it'd be like Muhammad 4 intersects with Muhammad 5, and that intersects with Muhammad 6. And like, it's not really a grid, you know, and it's just like insane. And so we're like, and then the guy, like, he's like, here we are on the map. And then he drew this line through the city, and then he pointed an arrow off the paper, and he's like, your hotel is like right there.
Like, yeah, good luck.
So yeah, we like pack into this SUV that we rented, and I just remember driving in circles trying to learn the layout of each block. Like we drive in a circle and then increase by another circle to try to like learn where we were at, you know, like it was like just going around, like, okay, I remember this street and this one. Anyway, eventually we found the hotel. But so we're driving to Agadir, which is like a good solid like 9 hours of driving straight without stopping south of there. And so we're like kind of just numb from road tripping and there's a lot of us in the car, you know, and we like drive through these mountains and it's snowing, and then all of a sudden there's a freaking rainbow in the distance like over these mountains, and I was just like, man, let's just get off, like look at this insane landscape, what's happening, it's snowing and there's a rainbow, and like let's just pull off and just stretch our legs a bit, you know. And so we like pull off on this dirt road, and for some reason I just like started driving down it for a ways. And finally we're like, it's literally in the middle of the desert, there's like nothing anywhere, and a dirt road, and we just like stop after like, I don't know, 15-20 minutes of driving down this road, and we get out and we're just running around like you know, and like freaking out,
releasing the tension of it.
Yeah, totally. And then we like get back in the car, and I'm like, all right guys, who has the keys? And Kenny goes, you were driving. And I was like, yeah, but I don't have the keys. I was like, who's got them? And he's like, everyone's like, you do, dude. And I was like, what? And I just remember I looked out the window, and Kenny was like, don't you dare look out the window like they're out there, man.
Oh, shit.
And I was just like, God damn it. And I was like, you know what? They were in my like loose sweatshirt pocket. They must have bounced out when I was like jumping around.
Oh, yeah, okay. Oh, shit.
And so I'm like, all right, guys, we're going to comb the desert. Like literally we're combing the desert. Wow. I was like, everyone's 6 feet apart. We know we're in this direction. We're going to follow our footprints, and we're just going to walk until we find this key. And the sun was going down. It was getting cold. Like the windows in the car were all down. It was bad. There was no one for miles, you know, like it was bad. Yeah. So we start walking, and Rich, like he's like, here's John's footprints. This looks like John jumping around, and here's the fucking key. And he like holds it up above his head, and it was like catching the last rays of sunlight, you know. And we were like, yay! We like put him on our shoulders and like carried him triumphantly back to the car. And it was only the key. It had no keychain either. It was just like a single key.
Just one key. Oh, yeah. So even more hard to...
So hard to find, yeah. I mean...
Yeah. Wow, you're lucky you found it.
I
Thank
know.
God.
Yeah, I mean, our lives could have been in danger for sure. We would have been...
Yeah.
They bought me a keychain after that. And then the city was... Actually, Agadir is quite good for skating now, but back then, there was really only one marble plaza with one ledge. So it was kind of a shitmish, as they say, but
yeah, it's like not really that much worth it.
Definitely not worth it. It was worth it for the adventure. All right, what else you got?
All right. I have, okay, I'll play this one.
Hey, John, this is Nestor. So when we went to India for Kumbh Mela, I'm curious to hear what sticks out to you from how wild that whole experience was. Like maybe that night when we got lost after visiting all those different gurus' tents. And would you go back for the next one in 2025?
Oh, man. I guess he's thinking about it, isn't he? I don't even know what year the next one's at. I think I would go back, actually. No, I had enough of a break. But, man, Nestor is one of my best travel companions as well. Love that dude. But, yeah, I think we met on that Miami trip as well that I was talking about with Jerry.
Oh, yeah.
So the whole reason for going to India was because of this Steve McCurry photo that I saw where he has this picture of all these floating bridges that are completely packed with people. And so I looked up, I was like, what is this? What's happening? And it's this religious festival that happens only every 12 years, Kumbh Mela. And so I looked into it and it was like, well, you have to book accommodation like at least 6 months in advance. And I was like, you know what, whatever, I'm making this happen. We're doing a skate trip to India and we're going to go to this festival. And so I just bought 8 different beds 6 months ahead of time without having a crew or anything or funding or anything. I was like, whatever. And it was expensive because I was probably booking from the US. I think it was like $50 a night per bed or something like that. But I was like, you know what, this has to happen. I'm just going to buy these rooms and that's going to make me make it happen. I mean, rent these rooms, whatever. Yeah. Anyway, so I did that and then spent the next 6 months finding a crew, and that was Nestor, Suchu, Sibo, and Sean Malto, who totally was such a, I guess not a wild card, but he seemed like it at the time because everyone was like, Malto will never go on that. And then I asked him, he's like, hell yeah, I'd love to go. So it's funny, I would ask the people to go on these trips like Josh Kalis or Andrew Reynolds or just anyone basically that I thought would be cool to go. And remember both of those guys were just like, no way, man.
No thanks.
They were like, thanks for the offer, but I like my Starbucks in the morning or whatever.
I'm just gonna stay out here and do my thing. Yeah.
And I can appreciate that, especially I think they both had families at the time and stuff. So
yeah.
But anyway, we get out there and we skate Delhi for a bit. Now Wallner was there. He'd been to Delhi, so that helped with finding spots. Because, the only trips that I knew of before that to India were Lance Dawes went for Slap way back in the day. And, there was, literally nothing to skate. And then Josh Stewart had gone, I think, on a trip. And then I guess Patrick must have been there. But, those are the only guys I knew who had even been. Mm-hmm. So it was pretty untapped as far as skate spots, I thought. And anyway, and it was good, we found plenty. But the Kumbh Mela was not in a skatable city, it was and it's also, I think I can't remember the numbers. I want to say 30 million people go to the festival or something like that.
Really?
Something insane. It's in 2013, it was the largest gathering of human beings ever recorded.
Wow.
And we were there.
30 million is pretty... Wow.
It might have been 100 million. I can't remember, man. It was
I want to
say it was...
Yeah.
I think it might have been 30 million per day and 100 million total. Because it was a week-long thing.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy.
But it's this huge tent city gets built in the floodplain of the Ganges. And it intersects with this other river, the Saraswati or something like that. And there's basically 2 rivers and then a mythical other third river that all come together. And it's this religious, holy site for Hindus. Patrick and Malto, I think, got food poisoning. I think everyone had food poisoning except for me and Nestor, which happens. So Nestor and I were motivated, I guess, to go out, and I was super into photographing, just kind of street style of what was happening around us, and anyway, so we just went out and started walking, and the whole, it was miles and miles and miles across, this whole camp, it's got it's got a police force, it has lighting and food stations and freaking leper colonies. I mean, it was crazy, man.
I could imagine.
Yeah, we just went around and toward the center, there's all these gurus and the kind of spiritual guides and stuff. And everyone has a tent assignment. And there's a row. You have a row and a tent assignment because it's all kind of organized somehow. And so as a foreigner, we're way on the outskirts. And so we just started walking and got to the middle. like you have to be invited into the tent area by the guru. And so
Okay.
basically you have to have like a little like sit down, have a tea, and like they have to kind of suss you out, like if they want to deal with you or not, I guess. And
Okay.
so we got invited into this one, and we also had this Indian skater Purna with us, and he was at one of the central tents, and he invited us, or he asked if we could come into like his zone, you know, and the guy let us, and then they gave us these like, everyone's high as a kite on marijuana. Like they gave us these like kind of like those like energy balls you might find at like a health food store, but it was just, I want to say it was just like a marijuana bud with sugar. and like oil, you know, and packed into a ball or something. It was just like some kind of edible weed. And anyway, so we ate like a few of those, and then they're like all smoking us out, and we're just like so high, dude. And I'm just like, you know, we're trying to just bumbling around, and Porna's with us, luckily, but we're just like hanging out, you know, there's people like doing yoga and meditating, and like we're just like losing our minds because they're like, where are we? And there's like, the photos look kind of crazy because a lot of the gurus guys, they're called sadhus, and they like cover their bodies in the ash of the dead.
Oh yeah.
And,
wow.
you know, they look kind of scary, but they're actually, you know, I mean, some of them maybe are, but you know, they're, for the most part, it's a quite positive vibe going on. And that the music of the place is like kind of peaceful, like music getting projected across the whole encampment, you know, and we're just like kind of just blissing out on the whole thing. It was like pretty amazing. And then we ate dinner at one point, but all the gurus and sadhus, they get to eat first. And I just remember being so hungry and not really understanding the process. And Porna was just like, hey man, like we just gotta wait. And just totally being like an impatient Westerner, you know, like angry. And anyway, so like, all right, whatever, waiting. And then like all the commoners line up, and there's like this like kind of food kitchen. And basically you get served, and then you wash your plate, and then you give it to someone else who's waiting in line.
Okay.
And so we like get sort, you know, and I'm just like, whatever, food poisoning. I'm so scared, but I'm so hungry. Like, I don't care. And anyway, so we like get our plates and we go and we eat. And then I just remember at the end, like how you washed it was there was a tap that came out of the sand, and it was just like, I presume Ganges water. And you just like took a handful of sand from the floodplain, rubbed it on the plate, and then rinsed it off. And that was the washing process. And I was just like, oh my God, like this is sketchy. And then I remember handing it to the guy in line who was waiting, and he was so dumbfounded. Like, what is this white guy doing here? Like, he was like stunned.
Couldn't believe it.
Couldn't believe I was handing him this plate, you know, and he was just like, what's happening? And I was just like, see you later.
Enjoy.
But yeah, I don't know. We just walked, and then like everyone started bathing at like 4 a.m. The whole bathing process. So everyone goes and they get blessed, and they bathe in the water of the Ganges and like drink it. And, and so we were there, like just watching this whole thing, and I got rushed down to the front, I think, because we were foreigners, you know, and like they were like, "Oh yeah, come over here." And there's like a media pit, you know, like all these photographers and stuff, and like, I mean, it was just insane, dude. But
did you guys bathe in the water, or is it kind of not?
I mean, it's no way, man. It's so polluted. Porna did.
Yeah, that's what I.
Porna did. Although I missed it, I wish I would have been there for that part. But
yeah, it's not very very safe to do it. Yeah.
Oh God, no. But yeah, I mean, there, you know, the whole kind of attitude is like, well, this is you know, like not immortality, but like this is holy versus a little pollution. Like what the holy obviously trumps pollution, you know.
Sure. Yeah.
So I did get in the water. I got in like chest deep to photograph, but I did not dunk my head or anything like that. But yeah, you got to get in the water to get good pictures, man. You know, so. But anyway, yeah, it was an amazing time for sure.
Looked like it, yeah. And so yeah, the next one, I think Nestor said it's 2025. So would you consider going to it again? Or?
I mean, yeah, I would consider it. Don't know how that would actually happen just with having a family now and stuff. That would be a challenge. But I would, in theory, for sure, I would go. Definitely. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Cool. All right. Let's finish with okay, let's do the Fred Gall one, yeah.
Okay.
And to my final request or demand, I would like you to share with us all and please us with a good old Fred Gall story. From anywhere on the planet, your choice. And please also follow up with a Kirill Koropkov one, because these two guys are always pretty good at creating some chaos or gifting us with some good old souvenirs to take back home?
Oh man, I don't know if I could tell the Fred ones.
Yeah.
I have a good one. We were going to San Francisco on some trip with like Papalardo, Plahowski, Freddie, Salego, and Bill Strobeck, and Lou Metal was there. And on the flight out, Fred drank a bunch of liquor and ate some Xanax and was basically just blackout on the plane and started wiling out, listening to rap music super loud. It was like listening to Ludacris, I think, on the plane, like on his portable speaker, sitting next to Lou Metal, and the flight attendants keep coming like, "Hey, sir, you're gonna have to settle down," you know, like blah blah blah, and like he kept doing it. He turned, "Oh, sorry," turn it off, and then they walk away and like turn it on again, you know, and they're getting irate, and he goes, he's like, "Sir, you're really gonna have to turn that off," and he goes, "What are you gonna do? Kick me out of the sky?"
Wow, amazing.
And then when we landed, he like passed out, you know, for a while, and then woke up, and because of the Xanax, didn't remember any of it.
Ah, shit. Yeah, of course.
So he gets off, and all the flight attendants are glaring at him, and he's just like, "Thanks so much for the nice flight, thank you."
Amazing. Wow.
Oh, another one too. Oh God, don't get me started. But one more. We were in Turkey. Went to Turkey. I got us a crazy budget trip. Like all these trips were so budget. It was just the bare bones minimum money we could get to make them happen, you know. And so like we're staying in a youth hostel, but I found this youth hostel. There was 8 people on the trip, and I found 8 beds in one room, and it was for like, I don't know, not expensive. So we're all packed in there together on bunks. And Fred is like doing whatever hard drugs he can find and like wiling out, and thank God he's sober now and maintaining it.
Yeah.
So it's wonderful for him. But at the time it was quite
different.
I was very anxious about what was going to happen, you know.
For sure.
And especially like in Turkey, if you get caught with, you know, it's like a bad scene. So we're like wiling out in this hostel, you know, and he like ends up hooking up with this girl, and like they're like making out in her bunk bed, and then like the bed is about to like fall through, and like they had a roommate, and she was like scared they were gonna fall on top of her, and she like left the room. And then we're like wiling out on the roof, getting like stick and poke tattoos with Spanky. It was like and there's a guy up there trying to read this guidebook to India, incidentally. And he's like sitting at the other end of this long family style table on the roof of the hostel, and Fred's like wiling out, you know, and Spanky's tattooing him like God, what was I can't remember what he got tattooed, but doesn't matter, I guess. And the guy he goes, "Excuse me," he's like, I cannot listen to English right now. And and Fred is like, "What?" And he's like, "Fuck you, motherfucker." And like, anyway, the hostel owner comes up. He's like, "You guys are gonna have to leave," you know. And it's like, "Oh my God, like so sorry, like please, like this." He's gonna go to bed, you know.
Yeah.
He like lets it slide, and then the morning, Fred like goes around and like takes out all the trash in all the rooms in the whole hostel, and like puts them in the dumpster. And the guy was just like, "Oh my God," he's like, "You're awesome, like thanks so much." Anyway, he knows exactly how far he could push it, and then how to turn it around also, you know. But anyway,
he's a character. Damn.
he is a character. I love that dude.
And what about Kirill then? Do you have something about Kirill that comes to mind?
Jeez, well, on Trans-Siberian, Kirill was like our fixer. But, you know, Kirill and Patrick and I don't think ever traveled together. Kirill also went to Kazakhstan. Mm-hmm. But I don't know, man. I have a picture of him from Trans-Siberian. It was his birthday, and he is eating birthday cake with his hand. Because he didn't have any utensils. He just stuck his fingers into the top of it and took out a big handful of cake. But I mean, I don't know. He was just like a great positive force, and always like super excited to be skating and out there. But I can't think of any like. Oh, actually, here's a pretty good one. He saved the day because we were on the very beginning of Trans-Siberian. Mm-hmm. We were trying to get to our train, and there's 2 train stations across the street from each other in Moscow, and we couldn't understand which one our train was leaving from. Probably just because of the language barrier or something. But like, anyway, we're like freaking out, and some random girl, there was like some like groupie chick with us who was like, I don't know, she didn't skate, but she was just hanging around. Maybe she was like hooking up with somebody, but like,
okay.
She was trying to help us, and she like took us to the wrong train station, and then we're going back and forth, and we figure out the train, and we get there, and then Keegan was like coming from somewhere else, and he was in a taxi, and he was stuck in traffic, Anyway, so we are like all on the train. We finally get there, and Keegan's not there, and we're all stressing out, and we've been running around anyway. And anyway, Kirill is like talking to the conductors, and just like, I don't know, he's negotiating with these conductors, and we're basically trying to like keep the train from leaving the station. And this train is like going to frickin' China, you know what I mean? And they're just like, sorry, we're not waiting. But anyway, he's just like holding the train basically, and then we see like Keegan come running across the
platform,
the platform, but it wasn't just the platform, it was like the parking area too, and we just see him in the distance, and he's just like booking it with his boards and gear and like with a duffel bag, and like Kirill is like holding the train, and then the train was started to move out of the station, and he comes running and like jumps onto the last car.
No way.
And then we were just like, yay! You know, like freaking out. It was like the most awesome beginning of a trip.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, stressful, but yeah, exciting.
So stressful. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, he like saved our asses so many times, like with cops or just getting us the rooms and everything. It's just a great dude.
That's it for my conversation with Jonathan. Go check out some of his past and current work on his website mehringphoto.com. Mehring has an H between the E and R. Follow him on Instagram at Mehring's Bearings, and keep an eye open for the Walls Cannot Keep Us From Flying documentary coming out in the next few months. Thank you for tuning in. See you soon for a new episode of Beyond Boards.